going, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome to a brand new deck profile. As you can tell by the thumbnail and title already, yeah, we are doing a pure Mekk Knight deck profile here for the month of July, sort of almost August at this point. I know Rise of the Duelist is on the horizon, and there are some good cards in there that could possibly play in this deck, like Forbidden Droplet, Triple Tactical Talents. Those cards are a little too rich for my blood at the moment, because I've been putting a lot of resources and time into building my own, with the help of some other people, obviously, a studio to do all of my recording and editing, and that's why I've been very unactive lately on the channel, just giving you guys the recent feature match from our online tournament. By the way, thank you guys for watching those and checking those out, but I've been very busy for those reasons, so I just want to sort of explain my inactivity. But we're going to be giving you guys a updated pure Mekk Knight deck profile. Now, I'm going to be changing the way that I actually do my profiles, because they were just getting to be a little too much for me in the terms of trying to, put out a good deck profile consistently, and in a timely manner. That ended up being an issue. So things are going to change a little bit. It's not going to be so different. I think you guys will still enjoy it, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. But first, I want to mention a quick shout out to Imperium Duelist, provider of this beautiful Solemn Wars playmat, double-sided, or two-player, I should say. This is the reverse side, the Witch's Strike going against the Solemn Strike, and the varying other artworks. This mat is absolutely insanely gorgeous. If you guys want to pick it up, if it's not already sold out, you can get it for 10% off. Using that discount code WINNERKILLS 10 off. Same thing with this beautiful deck box, their new deck box with the red and gold theme. But let me just go ahead and get out the deck here. I'm going to be giving you guys a side deck this time around as well. So I've got a little extra to show you guys, so hope you're looking forward to that. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with the monster lineup, then go into the spells. Obviously, same old, nothing's changed really there. But you'll see what changes are made, obviously, as we get through it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the regular profile here. So we're gonna start with our 3 copies of Girsu the Orcus Mekk Knight. Then we have 3 copies of Mekk Knight Purple Nightfall, 3 copies of Mekk Knight Blue Sky, and then following that we have our 2 copies of Mekk Knight Indigo Eclipse. Then following that, a copy of Red Moon and Yellow Star. I wish these guys would get a rarity bump. 1 copy of Avram. Then we have 1 copy of World Legacy World Chalice and 1 World Legacy World Armor. Then into the hand traps, we have 2 copies of Nibiru, 2 copies of Phantasme. Then we have 2 copies of Ash Blossom and 2 copies of Effect Valor to round out our monster lineup. Okay, so moving into the spells, not really much has changed. We have 3 copies of World Legacy's Memory, 2 copies of World Legacy Succession. Following that, another 2 copies of Lightning Storm. Don't have my 3rd one yet. Galaxy Cyclone. Following that up, 1 copy of Mind Control and Instant Fusion. These cards are essentially the same thing. 1 Upstart Goblin and 1 copy of World Legacy Key. And that rounds up our spell lineup. Into the traps, we have 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence. And last but not least, 2 copies of World Legacy's Secret. So that rounds out the main deck, and you can already tell some of the changes I'm making to these deck profiles. But now we're going to go into the extra deck. Shout out to the 2 German Sky Striker tokens. But in the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Access Code Talker, the Head Chief. 1 copy of Mekk Knight Crusadia Avermax, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Mekk Knight Spectrum Supreme, 2 copies of Mekk Knight of the Morning, or 3 copies actually, my bad. Then we have 2 copies of Lib the World Key Blade Master, 1 copy of Galatea the Orcus Automaton, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Salmon Great Almirage, 1 Link Spider, 1 Dingirsu, and 1 Thousand Eyes Restrict. And that pretty much rounds out the extra deck. And as I mentioned, I do have a side deck to show you guys, so we'll go into that now. And again, side decks can vary from obviously tournament to tournament, especially with no big events right now. It's hard to make a general side deck. It's really more tailored to what you face in your local area. So for me, I have 1 copy of Artifact Scythe. And feel free to take upon this and make whatever changes you would like, as with the whole profile, obviously. But 3 Dark Ruler No More, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, and then 1 copy of World Legacy Scars in the sideboard. I know there's probably a couple people having near aneurysms over why this card isn't in the main deck, but 1 copy of World Legacy Scars, 3 copies of Trap Trick, with that 2 copies of Sanctum, 2 copies of Different Dimension Ground, and 1 copy of the World Legacy Whispers. And that rounds up our full main, side, and extra deck. But, of course, you guys love these profiles as of late in the past year or so. for the in-depth, detailed explanation. And don't worry, that is not going anywhere. We're just changing up the way we do it. So that was the standard profile. Now we're going to take it a step further and do a deep dive and more detailed look into the deck. Okay, so instead of looking at starters, extenders, and all of that, we're just going to go ahead and just do the card by card, essentially, and bring up sort of any highlights about any specific card that I can. So first, we're going to take a look at Girsu, obviously a starter card, but this card is absolutely fantastic for the Mekk Knight strategy for a few reasons. Obviously, it has amazing graveyard utility, setting up things like World Legacy, World Armor for the whole lib play, or setting up Chalice for a next turn follow-up, guaranteeing you a search pretty much. And it also helps to make your turn 1 play is absolutely fantastic. So, and again, the reason why I'm citing that Scars is if I know I have to go first, I can put that in. And then if I open Girsu Purple, basically, I can do the whole combo without needing Link Cross and things like that. It can be done. I've learned the combo a little bit. My friend has helped me learn it. I still don't have it fully memorized, but basically it can be done with just Girsu and Purple. But this card is incredible. The tokens essentially are amazing, and one thing is that you can actually get Purple on field, remove it to search this, or if you have both of these guys on field at the same time, obviously Purple can just remove itself to make the other effect of Girsu live, which is also amazing because it turns off Impermanence, it turns off like Lightning Storm, it turns off Evenly Match. It's a really fantastic card, so sometimes leaving that token on their side of the field is really beneficial to your strategy, but it makes cards like Blue Sky live turn 1 without needing to play clunky engine cards like Ibly, etc., etc. So I really do love Girsu. Obviously, I think it's a 3 of. In my personal opinion, you can play builds without this card, absolutely. You just need a Vrom, an Unexpected Die, and things like that. There's actually some pretty cool combos that can be done without this card, but if you got it, you might as well play it. So then moving on, 3 Mekk Knight Purple Nightfall. I would consider this card a starter for various reasons, but hands down, one of the best Mekk Knights within the deck next to Girsu. Its ability to get searches and recur itself the next turn. Basically completely protect itself, while it's granting you a search is absolutely incredible because it just comes back next turn. Oftentimes the opponent will forget about it and just net you absurd amounts of advantage because this can turn into a Blue Sky, which can turn into 2 more Mekk Knights, and then you start swarming the field. So really not too much to be said about Purple there. Moving on, we have Mekk Knight Blue Sky. Fantastic card. Even better now with Girsu because, again, we have the ability to make this card live on turn 1, which is absolutely huge. Oftentimes, the biggest issue with this card was the fact that if you did have to go first, this card was completely useless. And it felt so bad to, search it off your Blue Sky or your Purple and have it sit in the hand, or you'd have to summon it via a column that you created, get no searches off it, and, be forced to link it off for something more beneficial like a Morning Star. But the simple fact that it can be made live turn 1 with an in-engine card such as Girsu that can be searched via Purple, it's just so incredibly good, and 100% a 3 of in my opinion. Moving on, we have 2 Mekk Knight Indigo Eclipse. I'd consider this card to be more of a superior extender. It's incredible. Mainly because it's not like your go-to first summon for Mekk Knights, but it's that pivotal extender that you're always trying to search off your blue or your purple, because having this card in hand to discard for Morningstar is really beneficial, because oftentimes bringing this card back off of secrets nets you the most value, because it can turn into 2 monster negates, because obviously you summon it to the zone the first time where they're trying to activate something, and then you just move it over, or move another Mekk Knight over to get that secondary negate. It's just a really versatile card all around. Level 8, 2400, can be used to make Dingir, so obviously for that one reason. I don't think 3 is necessary. I think 1 is far too little, because if this card gets removed from the grave, it does hurt a lot, and having a second copy to search, because this card sometimes, apart from having graveyard setups, does allow you to actually extend further, because it just moves itself out of the way and creates another column for you in that sense. So very, very good card. I just don't think it is a 3 of. Then some removal here in the form of Red Moon and Yellow Star. I think these cards have to be in the main deck. You just need the utility. I feel like one of the reasons why I never really liked Mekk Invoked was because a lot of times you just didn't have the room for these cards. but it oftentimes felt like you just lost out on so much utility. I just love having these cards in the main deck because they just come up so much, especially when they can be paired with Indigo, especially since these guys' effects aren't hard ones per turns. So if you set up your zoning correctly, Red Moon can destroy 2 cards, or Mekk Knight Yellow Star can destroy 2 back row, etc., etc. So you can get a lot of value out of those cards. And then the one of Mekk Knight of Ram. This card is needed, I believe, for the FTK, if you want to call it, with Scars. So I believe that's why this is in here, but it's also just a really good searchable normal summon outside of Girsu that I do really like to have within the main deck. It can just be a versatile card, can be a starter, turn itself right into Link Karibo. Just another chance at seeing a strong normal summon outside of Girsu again, like I said. Then going into our other monsters here, we have World Armor and World Chalice. I know some people don't like to run the World Armor, and I can understand why it might seem counterproductive. But with the way I've been playing the deck, just going Girsu to send this, and then go right into Lib, and then summon this back out, and that nets you a search and in its own right, and helps you just extend more. And it just kind of like gives you extra link fodder. Because yeah, you could just send this and wait a turn, but I feel like it's just more proactive to go for armor, and I believe armor is also needed again for that sort of FTK with Scars. And again, the Chalice is really great because oftentimes you don't want a powerful card like Girsu to be dead after turn 1, because that absolutely can destroy the grind game that this deck needs, and World Chalice helps 100% to do that. Be able to search out like key cards like Key, no pun intended, against a deck like Eldritch. It can just outright win you games. So now we're going to go into the hand traps for this build. And we have 2 copies of Nibiru. This card is incredible. It's just, there's really not much to be said about it. It sets up a token for you. It sets up a column for you, essentially. One thing going forward, though, I may replace these with Gamma Seals, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the spells. Some of you might already know why I might be bringing up that sort of, reason with the spells. This way I might cut this. But combo can be pretty hard to deal with, especially since all the combo decks out right now are very, very sturdy, very, very consistent. A lot of them not having too many anti-Nibiru routes, especially with Needle Fiber and shenanigans and things like that. Save for a few rogue decks that can put out that, pivotal interruption at the 5th summon. But this card really just demolishes a lot of major combo decks, and it sets up columns, so it has a bit of a dual purpose. Then going into Phantasme here, this card I've always loved inside of Mekk Knight for a few reasons, because there's so many, link decks right now, and I guess not link decks, but link packages being thrown into pretty much every deck. So Phantasme almost always gets you value, help to optimize your hand for going second boards, help you to dig into more hand traps, and also gets you a body on field to protect your normal summon like Girsu or whatever it may be. And it's just also extra link fodder at the end of the day. And a deck that can basically OTK without really needing to do a whole lot, just doing normal Mekk Knight shenanigans. Adding a Phantasme to that board really just helps to put on the pressure that much faster. So yeah, this card I've just always loved in here. It's just basically free advantage with all of the needle fiber stuff running around, and I may go to 3, but I just don't like drawing multiples of hand traps, so that's why I play a lot of 2 of hand traps. I know people are going to be like, oh, I hate when people play only 2 ofs, but I get it, but also like I just don't want to ever draw 2 Phantasme or 2 Nibiru, so I want to decrease those chances. And then we have 2 copies of Ash Blossom. It's just, again, a super generic, really well-rounded hand trap for this format. I think it's still incredible. And it can also, like the other hand traps we're playing, be turned into an Almirage, which sets up a column. So they're basically serving dual purpose in that sense. Again, same thing with Effect Veiler. I think Effect Veiler is just the next best thing to Ash at the moment. I guess arguably these could be the Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, but I don't have that card at the moment, so Effect Veiler works just fine for me. So that is a look at the monsters in detail. Now we're going to go through the spells and then into the traps, obviously. So for the spells, the bread and butter, this card is insane. Resolving this every end phase that you can, is just so huge. It puts you so far ahead. It's unbelievable. I was testing a few matches with my friend the other day when he came over, and I was just playing a bunch of matches versus Eldritch Sacred Beast, which is actually a very good build of Eldritch in my opinion. And constantly having this card set up and resolving in the end phase just allowed me to keep up with that deck so easily. Just having 1 or 2 purples coming back every standby phase. It was so incredible just to have this card. I mean, there's just like not much to be said about it. It's just an insane card for the deck all around. You definitely need it. 2 World Legacy Succession. This card gets used pretty much every turn. Well, every like first turn, every turn every good turn you have with this deck, you're going to be burning one of these for your lib play. So having a backup one is always welcomed. It's basically just a searchable monster reborn. Then we have 2 Lightning Storm. The reason why I like Lightning Storm here over Dark Lunar War is I feel like this deck has a harder time with back row heavy decks, such as Eldritch, such as Guru, with how much of a pain that deck is going to be with all the Numeron stuff. But Lightning Storm is just, it's fantastic. It can sort of deal with both things. Obviously, if you need to clear a board, you know, you can bait out Interruption that way. Or if you need to clear massive amounts of back row, this card is really, really great to do so. But the thing is, with the Nibirus, is that obviously if you resolve Nibiru, this card cannot be played, but granted, you did wipe their entire field, so it's kind of a good trade-off. And again, Phantasme is one of those things too, where if you're playing against a super combo heavy deck that might be using a lot of links, you know, Lightning Storm for the back row removal purpose anyways, it might not be so useful, so you can always shuffle it back in. But if anything, I may replace the Nibirus for Gamma Seals, just so that Confliction is a bit less likely, or maybe the Phantasmes instead of the Nibirus. I'm not entirely sure, but this card is just found in testing just to be so much better, get so much more value out of it than I would Dark Lure because of the spell and trap removal type effect. And again, at the end of the day, it can always be set. You can always summon purple too, remove purple to go grab Girsu, then follow up with a Lightning Storm. So that's another thing that you can do with this card. It's not always dead if you do have to set it and make plays, because again, purple can just remove itself from the board and make Lightning Storm live once again. Then going into the rest of the spells here, Galaxy Cyclone, just a versatile one of tech in the main deck. It's sort of a more versatile Lightning Storm, I guess, is the fact that it can be activated at any state in the game, regardless of what's on my field. It can also be used in the grave. It's a good out to just have for Mystic Mine late game for the banish effect if that ever comes up. And again, it can be set and then later in the turn flipped up to hit a back row. And the thing with this card is the way it's worded is if they have a continuous trap, so they have like there can be only one. If I play Galaxy Cyclone and target that set there can be only one, and they chain it, it still gets destroyed because it doesn't have to be still set. It just needs to target the card while it's still set in order for it to get destroyed. It's just based on the wording of the card, I believe. So Galaxy Cyclone is pretty nice for that. Instant Fusion Mind Control. I know some people have dropped these because they're both at 1, but I mean, it's essentially, these are both the same card if you think about it. This is getting Thousand Eyes Restrict, which is basically a Mind Control, and Mind Control is basically a Thousand Eyes Restrict, which is what Instant Fusion gets you. So it's basically like Instant Fusion is at 2, or Mind Control is still at 2. And I just love having these cards in the deck. I just don't think that saying that they're both at 1 is a good reason to cut them, because they're literally the same cards in this circumstance anyways for this deck, and it helps to break boards, which is always welcomed. Upstart Goblin for consistency can be set to make a column, played later that turn. Then One World Legacy Key. Something I might actually change up in the side deck is add a second one of these to the sideboard, because this card is just so good against so many tough matchups. And then into the traps, we have 2 World Legacies Secret. All around a really incredible floodgate for the deck, much like Key is. This is one of the lifebloods of the deck. Keeping this card up for as long as you can really helps you control the pace of the game, because eventually you have a skill drain. This is what it becomes, a skill drain. Your opponent really sometimes can't do too much about it. And if they clear one, you can always grab the second. And Impermanence, a very, very versatile hand trap. One of the best in the game, simply because it cannot be called by. And it's just really, really good. It can be played in 2 boards going second from the hand. It can be set to mate a column if you do have to go first. Just really, really like the card, hands down. So that's it for these spells and the traps and the rest of the main deck in detail. Now we're going to run through a detailed look at the extra deck. So Thousand Eyes Restrict, again, just the, the instant fusion target is a level 1, so it can be made for Link Karibo. I'll also add another thing we'll get to here, I guess we're going to get to in a moment, talking about Nibiru and here in the extra deck, at least some synergy. But first we have the copy of Dingirsu. We can make Galatea so easy now, because Girsu for some reason is an Orcus card and also a Mekk Knight card, so, but we'll take it. But this card can be made so much easier, and you can either use 2 level 8s, but now you can just leave your purple to be free, and let it roam wild, and you can just make a Galatea and slap this on top of it and just, have a party. So that's always great. Link Spider, again, for the Avram to either make a column, since it cannot be turned into Link Spider, or it can't be turned into Almirage or Link Karibo, but this card is also coming in testing a lot to transform Nibiru tokens into Link Spider. Which is huge, because at that point, if you can set it up, like, you maybe search an Avram and then use their Nibiru token to make Link Spider, then summon out your Avram, and then keep going into a Morning Star. So really, really liking that. Or you go and do Lib, whatever it may be, even after you've gotten Nibiru. And then we have Almirage and Link Karibo again for your level 1 hand trap, like Vailor, or for your instant fusion target, Thousand Eyes Restrict, and this essentially turns any hand trap into a column, with also a bit of built-in protection. Then our Link 2s, we have 1 Galatea, again, because we have an Orcus card in the main deck now, we can access this card, and with it, we can have easier access to Dingirsu. 2 copies of Lib the World Keyblade Master. This card has come up so much more now, and I think playing 2 is 100% the way to go. Especially with, like access code talker, and I'll explain that. There's the removal this card offers outside of the resource management and like the gain it can bring to you. It's just so good for the removal aspect. So I think 2 has definitely always come up. Turn 1 it can come up, just a part of your normal combo, and then later in the game, having an extra copy for the grind is always welcome. 3 copies of the Chief himself, Morning Star. This card is hands down like one of the best cards in the extra deck. I've never really been comfortable with just 2. And for me, it was either cutting Boral Sword or cutting one of these for access code. And I went with the Boral Sword because access code sort of does what Boral Sword does. Granted, they're a little different in their execution of how they secure a game, but I think having a 3rd Morning Star is a bit better. Because you do go through these quite a bit with the Scars combo, I believe. I think you make like 2 of these. I could be wrong, or again, I don't have the combo fully memorized, but we're getting there. But just having multiples of these for the grind game, I think is really, really nice. I know there's an Extravagance build. I'm not playing the Extravagance build. Obviously, I just don't have the money for the card right now, and this is exactly how I'd play the build IRL. We have 1 Spectrum Supreme. Again, just outright good card. Basically the BLS Link, but just for Mekk Knights and also needed for the FTK. 1 Nightmare Unicorn. This card I really like to go into with Lib, and then Lib spins a card. Obviously, then I use this to go, spin another card, and then this helps me go into Access Code Talker, having a good generic Link 3. So that's why I play the Unicorn. Then we have Avermax, and of course the Access Code Chief. Just outright incredible boss monsters for the deck. Part of the FTK, and just helps you to OTK, which is what this deck wants to do. But yeah, I found myself a lot of times in testing where I'd go Lib right up into Unicorn, spin 2 cards, and then Lib or Unicorn would go right up into Access Code, and I'd clear 2 more cards. So it's essentially a little, link climb you can do that will remove 4 cards, which is very, very pivotal in some cases. So really, really liking the extra deck where it is. Then a quick go through of the side deck. Scythe, obviously for Sanctum, it can be brought off of the Secret as well to constantly keep reoccurring this on the opponent, which is nasty, especially with how easy it is to get the Secret now with Lib. You just constantly Scythe lock them turn after turn. Dark Ruler no more. If it's not in the main deck, I want it in the side, etc., etc. I don't have a 3rd copy of Lightning Storm, so 2 copies of Cosmic in the side as well. That copy of World Legacy Scars, again, for the FTK. If I do know I'm going first, I want that surefire way to help secure the game a bit harder going first. So if they're scared of this, they might use more hand traps early on, which means you can just sort of fall back onto a different Mekk Knight play. I don't want this in the main deck strictly because I do not want to play my Mekk Knight deck going first. I just feel like I would rather play into the strengths of the strategy as a whole and go second, and not have this in the main deck, and instead leave it as a side decking strategy to go first. So that's why I have that in here. Then 3 Trap Trick. This is one of my favorite parts about the Mekk Knight side deck, is the trap lineup you can play, because a lot of times you can just, you know, if you do have to go first, you can sort of bluff by setting 1, passing, you know, the typical, like, oh, he's playing Mekk Knights, I didn't give him any columns, you know, I got him, etc., etc. When in reality is you have a bunch of hand traps, you have traps, like real traps, and they're going to play right into it. And once they commit to that board and they realize they can't pull off their combo, whatever it may be, you know, they've just played cards onto the field, which sets up, you know, advantage for you tenfold, because you can just start summoning Mekk Knights next turn and just go off. So yeah, 3 Trap Trick, and obviously they are going to get either the Sanctums or the Different Dimension Ground. These cards are basically turn enders against certain decks, so that's why I really do like them. I know there's a new D-barrier type trap that's been revealed. Maybe I might play that instead of Different Dimension Ground. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, there's that. And then the last one is the Whisper. Sky Striker is good, but it's not super represented, at least where I play at the moment. But you know, this card might be a bit better with Droplet and triple tactical talents coming to the formats, so maybe this will go back into the main deck. I'm not entirely sure, in place of maybe Galaxy Cyclone. But that's pretty much it for the profile, the detailed look. One particular thing I wanted to talk about also was, the only change I might make going forward would be to possibly, again, drop the Nibiru's for something like Gamma Steel, as I feel like that can be a bit more versatile to have Gamma Steel. And again, there's no confliction there with the Lightning Storm, at least less chance for confliction. Ideally, there would be none. But again, Phantasmi is a weird card because it can sort of change, you know, that confliction outright by putting back cards that won't work with it, like Impermanence or Lightning Storm, whatever it may be, in exchange for other cards that are beneficial. Cards that I would typically side out real quick, I guess, would probably be either Instant Fusion Mind Control if I know I'm going first. Could be copies of Galaxy Cyclone or Lightning Storm if it's not very valued in that particular matchup. And either that Nibiru's as well, or the World Armor, or probably World Armor will stay in most of the time. World Chalice will probably get sided out. And as far as other cards, that's really about it for things that are sided up, or maybe Key if it's not warranted for that particular matchup. So those are the cards that I probably would drop in some matchups, again, depending on what I'm playing against. So that's going to do it for this Pure Mekk Knight update. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed the new style. You know, not really doing things based off of starters, extenders, and things like that. Just sort of going through the card by card in a more of a detailed manner. It just makes filming them much easier. There's less pausing I have to do, less setting things up, and it just works better for me overall to help get the video out to you guys. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Again, if you guys want to get this playmat or these sleeves or this deck box that I pulled the deck out of, you know, you can get it all on Imperium Duelist's site for 10% off using that discount code WinnerKills10 off. You can also, if you're buying anything on TCG Player, you can use my affiliate link to them down in the description below. As a small bit of the revenue from your purchase will go right back in to the channel, which is super appreciated. This mat is absolutely gorgeous, guys. I would grab it if you haven't, but it might be sold out. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. This mat is very gorgeous. Super excited for what's to come in the future, like for the studio and everything like that, and all the recording and stuff I'll be doing down there. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, share it with a friend possibly, and as always, WinnerKills signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And of course, a massive shout out to my divine level channel members here on YouTube, Zors, Travis Harris, and Academic Thick. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel as long as you have. It is greatly appreciated. And again, thank you guys so much for the support.